Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Violet, and today I'll be reading from my third novel in the Reawakening Series, Heal Me Gently. And this is where the two main characters meet for the first time. I had just gotten myself to the living room when the doorbell rang. Shit, I murmured under my breath, hoping I still had a few minutes to prepare myself. With a huff, I approached the front door and took another deep breath before opening it. When I got a look at the person standing on the porch, a flare of attraction hit me like a freight train. And I quickly told myself to snuff it out, shut it down, which only made the constant anger boiling beneath the surface grow. The universe is fucking with me right now. The wayward thought didn't leave me while I sat there holding the door open like a dumbass. All of this without saying one damn word. Hi, Zion Wallace? She asked in a smooth, calming voice. It was sexy and annoying, all at the same time. But hearing my name snapped me out of my brain fog. You meeting another wheelchair-bound man at this address? And her appearance apparently turned me into a complete smartass. Instead of truly answering her question, I backed away from the door to give her room to enter the house. I couldn't trust myself to speak. Not right now when the ground was pulled out from under me yet again. I watched as the short, sexy woman took tentative steps crossing over the threshold into my parents' home. It struck me stupid just how gorgeous she was. In the looks department alone, she was definitely my type. Brown, wavy hair with subtle blonde highlights framed an oval face. With her tanned complexion, minimal makeup accentuated the warm undertone of her skin. When I first opened the door, I noted green eyes, but now I realized they were hazel and beautiful. She was beautiful. She wore baby blue scrub pants, a long-sleeve shirt, and white sneakers. She couldn't have been much taller than Chloe, which meant I had more than 6 inches of height on her. That's if I ever stood tall again. Another place and time, maybe. Who the hell am I kidding? That ship sailed along with the use of my legs. And now that thought pissed me off even more. I went back to studying her as she glanced around quickly, probably hoping to catch sight of a friendly face. Sorry, sweetheart, you only get me. My name is Abigail Suarez, she finally introduced herself. Okay. Stop being a dick, Zion Xavier Wallace. My family wouldn't find my shitty behavior the least bit amusing. But so what? Why the hell should I care anymore? This woman, this home health aide, showed up, and I hadn't known she was coming until a couple of hours ago. Another wave of frustration strummed through me. I didn't want any of this. Right about now, I'd rather be alone to drown in my own damn misery. But here we are.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Author. We have the amazing Miss Kelly Violet with us today. We're going to jump right into this incredible reading because you have me hooked and then you stopped. Typical authors, just leave me hanging. So welcome, madam. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, DC, for having me so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I am thrilled you're joining us, so we're going to cut right through the chase. Tell us about this book. Tell us about this series. Come on, give us some more. Go on.
Yeah, so Heal Me Gently is book 3 in the Reawakening series. I am currently working on book 4, and that's going to be the final book. This is my new adult series. A large amount of the books that I will write will be in this subgenre of romance. And this book in particular, you can read all 3 of my current books that are out as standalone, but they all follow a friends group. So there are different couples in each of the books. But this book, Zion and Abby meet. As you can probably tell, he has suffered a recent incident that put him in a wheelchair. And so he has a lot of anger, frustration, loss that he's dealing with in this book. And then this young woman comes into his life and she gives him the kick that he needs. And so that's what you saw in that kind of first interaction with those two. And it keeps building as you get through the book as well.
Of course, because they can't just stay there. It's not just going to be like,
No.
My heart went to him already. I was like, I feel so bad for you. Really? Couldn't they send you an old, ugly person to help you? Like, when you're in that situation?
Of course not.
Really?
It wouldn't be romance.
You said you're going to start writing in the sub-genre. What other genres are you writing? Because that's just a little hint that you went into that.
Yeah, so new adult is kind of the main one. I like the angsty feel of new adult, But I also have a steamy contemporary that's out. That book is it's a novella, and it's currently only exclusive on the Radish Fiction app. But I always have plans to extend that book a little bit more. And so that'll come out along with the second book in that duet earlier next year. So it's basically going to be new adult, contemporary, erotic romance at some point in time. I'll get to that. And also romantic suspense. So those are the main subgenres under romance that I'm looking forward to putting more content into.
You have a little bit of everything all within the romance category. I am
Yes.
brand new to the romance world. Every time I talk to a romance author, I have so much more questions. How did you decide to go there? Like, how did you
Yeah.
decide to pick this genre?
I've been reading romance for way too long. My mom was an avid reader. She liked to read like mafia books when we were younger, but she would take us to the public library all the time. I'm from New York originally, even though I live in California. Maybe every 2 weeks without fail, she would take me and my oldest sister to the library. I mean, I think I always had a higher reading level, so maybe around 10. My mom let us do whatever we wanted, honestly. So I would just walk over to the romance section and just get a couple of books and just read them when I was like 10 or 11. And I think I actually got my mom and my sister into reading romance. I've always loved love. And so I think that's why romance, it's always been a plan of mine to write romance. And I think I've always said it in my head, whether I said it out loud or not, that I wanted to do this. At some point in time, I started clear housing ideas and all types of things, not really doing anything with them. So I would put out a title or put out names of characters and what their features were, some of their background, but it was just sit there in the cloud and I wouldn't do anything with it. And so maybe around 2012, when I made the move to California, is when I said, I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to follow my passion. And that's when I started going to writing conferences as a reader. And then I would sit in the panels with the other authors and kind of just research. I'm a researcher at heart. And that's kind of what my day job is helping people with research. I put on my researcher hat and spent the next couple of years researching, learning about the business of writing, along with writing tracks, what the tropes are, what are some trends, even though I probably don't follow trends. I write the books that I want to write. But it's always great to hear about those. But, keywords, marketing tools, because I do all of my covers, I do all of my formatting myself for my paperbacks and for my ebooks. So just learning about what software people are using so I can try it out at a later date. So I spent the first of those couple of years doing that. And then the first book in the Reawakening series, Touch Me Softly, it hit me at a certain point. I had other books that I had about 10K on that all of my other friends, they were just like, Kelly, I thought you were going to start on this book. I thought this was the book you were going to finish. But Touch Me Softly, after I hit a certain point, I went over the hump of like 30K, which I had never reached before in 10 years of trying to take this seriously. And I just kept writing because the book wasn't done. And so now I'm 3 novels into that series and it's fantastic.
You're writing from a male perspective. What made you
Yes,
decide to do that?
I go back and forth. So with new adult, each chapter, every other chapter is the female and also the male's perspective. When new adult first got popular, that's kind of what I saw. So some people in new adult, they write first person present. Some people write first person past. Some people even write in the third person. I write first person past tense, but I also like, toggling between the points of view. I really enjoy writing from the male perspective. I had a lot of male friends growing up. I don't have that many male friends now. So I go back to the days of like how guys talk with each other, how guys talk to the women in their lives, whether it's their mother or their girlfriends, those types of things. So I really enjoy getting into the minds of guys.
It is becoming a very kind of consistent feel that I'm getting as I talk to different writers. It is that essence of just taking a whole different perspective and
Yes.
exploring that and just bringing it to life.
Yeah.
How did you decide I'm going to stick with it? Because you're in book number 4 now. So
Yeah.
this is something you must enjoy.
Yes. And I also have 2 other books that are in the new adult and they're college age. So my Reawakening series, they're kind of outside of that college age. So they're 24, 25, and 26. I love the new adult subgenre. I go back to kind of when it first got popular, there were a lot of the books kind of with similar ideas of like, there are these woes that you go through after you get to a certain point when you enter into adulthood, whether that's you're in college or not in college. And so you're learning to be an adult, you have adult issues, but you're probably still dealing with childhood trauma or just something that has kind of knocked you down where you didn't see yourself getting up, or you need to rally around the people around you. And so that's really what the Reawakening series is like both people in the couple, they have gone through something, whether it was something recently or something that was a past trauma. And so they kind of find themselves through kind of dealing with the experience that they've had, and also falling in love maybe for the first time, or truly in love for the first time, and dealing with some of those issues.
Those are such a universal topics across the board. And when they're done well, they just bring you back to that place in your life. So
Yes.
even if you're not there, you can still be like, oh, I remember that. And some of us might be like, I don't want to go back there. So let's be honest, like, yeah, glad we went through it. Glad we've moved on.
Yes, exactly.
You talked about the different things you had going on and the different projects you decided to do. This one touched you. What do you think made this one special?
Zion, and I love Zion. I talk about Zion in all of my books. And so the way it works is that I introduce, and Touch Me Softly, I introduce Win and Rafe. For me, and I was just explaining this to one of my best friends, that Rafe is kind of the central person. I didn't realize that when I came up with this series, but every other story kind of builds off of his relationships. So the second book in that series is about Chloe. And so we hear about Chloe. So this is this friends group, and it kind of branches off of Rafe, basically. It's the family that he made due to his circumstance. So we see Chloe, who is Zion's little sister. That's her book in book 2. But then you get to see Zion. And I had a couple of people ask me about Zion, because you feel for Zion, or you hear about Zion because he's the listening ear for Rafe in the first book. He's telling him to keep it going with the Win, that he's really excited that things are working out for him. So you hear this encouraging voice, and then you hear more about Zion in the second book. But even still, you don't get the meat of Zion. You don't get to hear about this anger because he's hiding it from everyone. He's even hiding it from himself for a lot of it. I really had to delve into kind of what he's thinking, what he's feeling. He feels lost. He feels angry. He feels frustrated. He feels less than, which I think a lot of people can relate to those types of things.
Absolutely. That's such an emotion, regardless of your career field.
Yes.
You hit that place whether you want to compare yourself or not, especially if he just has a traumatic accident. His leg's not working. How do you not going to feel that way? Ooh, you went deep with these books, honey.
I tried to. These books are really hard. I did not think that they would be so hard to write. I was actually talking to a reader while I was at Literary Love Savannah, and I don't get to hear a lot from readers. My reviews are kind of slow going. So anytime I get to talk to readers who've actually read my books and they've started with the Reawakening series, and they're just like, yeah, you go. I laughed. I was crying. I love you and I hate you. Like, she sent me a DM and was just like, I love you and I hate you right now. And I was like, what did I do? And then she told me that she started reading my books. And I was like, you make me so happy, because that's really, I want you to go through the roller coaster of emotions when you read these books. It doesn't mean that you've had to experience any of the things that these characters have experienced, but that you can sympathize with these people that I've created. It means the world to me.
They're connecting at such a huge level, especially with so much emotions that you bring into the table. So many times we're trying to sugarcoat the anger, we're sugarcoating the difficulties and the trauma. Yeah. But when it comes to writing fiction, this gets raw, this gets real.
I like to write real characters. Some of my characters have decided not to go to college because it doesn't work out for them, or because they had a kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So they may have took college classes, but they decided to do other things. Or they decided to work on their passion for music, which is kind of what Rafe did. He didn't do the traditional route. He might have done like technical school or something like that. But some of those insecurities that might come out of that when you're dating someone with a couple of degrees. Maybe I don't go more into depth with that in these particular books, but those are things that are in the back of my mind as well.
Insecurity, physical limitations, all sorts of things are very common nowadays, all put into writing in a love story. Let's be honest about this. This gets real. Once you add some romance into this, you're like, oh, this cannot end well. So here's your question as a romance author. Do you believe in happily ever after? This is my question now.
Yes. Okay. It's a hard
Ooh.
question, but I do believe in happily ever. Like I said, I've always loved love. And I do think that it is possible. I think that it is hard work. I think sometimes we make it look easy in romance novels. Not all romance novels. A lot of romance novels, they kind of hit hard and they tell you like it is, and they give you real world type of experiences, as well as building up the fantasy a little bit because we all need an escape. But I do think there are hundreds, thousands, millions of couples that have found their happily ever after, but it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been simple. And so that's kind of what I like to do in my books is like, we have two people who clearly need to work on themselves. They clearly need to know how to love themselves before they could think about anybody else loving them too. And so you have to work through all of those things. I try to do that for a lot of my books, whether it comes across that way. Other people can tell me if it's come across, but that's kind of my intentions going into all of these books is really thinking about finding the love of your life, but also finding self-love as well.
That is absolutely beautiful. I like it. So do we gonna have happy endings in your books?
Yes, my books have happy endings. There could be even like happy for nows, but yes, there's a nice bow tie at the end of my books, definitely. Except for
This-
my prequel to my novella, but yeah.
we can deal with prequels. Prequels are
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That's just
yeah.
it's just a teaser. That's just to get you there. You're like,
Exactly,
okay,
exactly.
that is exciting. I have been asking all my romance authors this question because I have been very much blown away with the new way of it's not going to end up well.
That might be a love story as opposed to a romance. Like a love story, you can go through the entire book with the couple lovey-dovey, all of this stuff, and then like a trauma or somebody dies at the end. But that's not a romance when it comes to my definition. That could be a love story or romantic or fiction just with romantic elements.
I like the difference. It's easy to see. I'm like, I can see the separation. We can deal with that. Where do your stories come from? Where do these ideas pop into your head? Because you have a lot. How do they come up to you?
Yeah, I do have a lot. I'll talk a little bit about my novella, which is a college romance, The Names You Call Me. So I was actually watching a movie on like Amazon Prime, and it was a movie that had like vignettes. And so it was looking at different characters as they moved through a particular city. I think they were in Philly. And so there were all like love stories. And one of the characters in that book was a poet, and he had writer's block. And so as you go through his character trajectory and all of that stuff, by the end of the movie, he meets someone, and I think that just reinvigorates him. One of his last scenes is him like spending the entire night writing this like epic poem. And so one thing he said in that poem, I literally like paused the movie and then I wrote out a poem that in my book, The Names You Call Me. And it said something about like rivers or something. So I have that in the book. In that book, when he was saying all of these things, because it's a very emotional poem that he was going through, I was just like, what if I wrote a book about bullying and what that means and how that breaks up two best friends and what that would look like? And so that's how The Names You Call Me came about. There are bullying elements in there that you see. You see more of the in-person bullying actually in the prequel because it happened in high school. And by the time you get to The Names You Call Me, they're already in college and reconnecting. So it's kind of that second chance. But she's bitter about how it ended. Her and her ex-best friend are at the same college campus, even though with different college campuses, you cannot see the same person twice, or if you wanted to ignore them with the different social circles, you could. You don't get to see them until like 2 years later, and they end up in the same class together, and she has an opportunity to say a poem, and then she ends up just saying this poem where she's basically like cursing him out, kind of like not cursing him out, but this is how you ruined your friendship. And she was all in her feelings about it. Then I literally just built the story around that poem that I had just hashed out in like 10 or 15 minutes. That was a long-winded story to say that, but it comes from movies. It comes from a song. I listen to a lot of music and a lot of different music. Sometimes if I'm listening to a song, maybe the song title brings up something or an emotion that I'm feeling while I'm listening to the song kind of comes to mind for me, certain topics about what if this event happened in someone's life and then they have to come out of that, or there was a misconnection on a train, like what happens. So I kind of think about those types of things. And I'm just an observant person. The first 3 books that I wrote, so Touch Me Softly, The Names You Call Me, and Find Me Lonely, where I used to live a couple of years ago, I would go to a bar and restaurant and just sit there every Friday, Saturday, and that's where I wrote the majority of my books. It was a bar, restaurant, and it also changed a little bit as the night progressed. They started playing music and all that stuff, so the younger crowd would come in. So I was just observant and looking at people's first dates and how they walked up to people, how they walked up to me. And so I would just use that type of atmosphere to kind of think of other story ideas or interactions or things like that. Kind of depends on my mood and what's going on around me.
You had your own personal laboratory for work. That is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. The bartenders would just supply me with drink and food, and then I would try and get some words out.
Amazing combination. And you had a little bit of everything. I think that's every writer's dream, is to have that place to
Yes.
go and that you have enough influence around that you can see everything. Nice job.
Yes.
I'm a little envious. I don't think I have that
I
around
don't
here.
have that bar restaurant anymore because I moved about an hour and a half away, but sometimes I go back just to feel nostalgic and try and get some writing done.
Do a little reminiscing down that path.
Yes. Yes.
What is your favorite part of writing? Because you've been doing it for a while. You've been exploring it.
Yes, I have been. My favorite thing about writing, I think it's the first part of falling in love with the characters that I've created. Sometimes it's easier to do that. Sometimes it's really hard. Like I had Zion in mind like that because I've been writing him. And I also, as I was writing him in the other books, I was also jotting down like what's really happening with Zion. So I had a really great idea of who he was inside and out. But then writing Abby was really difficult. And sometimes I find writing women more difficult. It sounds really weird to say. It's very interesting. I don't want them to sound like me all the time. So it's really interesting to find like their individualized voice. I have particular ideas. Certain friends have particular ideas that we talk about all the time. So it's kind of really difficult for me to kind of separate. And I want to make sure that all of my characters have their own personal voice. But yeah, falling in love with the characters for the first time, and that's even secondary characters. Like I love some of my secondary characters. They're quirky, they're funny, they're honest, like bluntly so. And that's exactly what the main characters might need for that push or something like that. So really discovering the characters that I'm writing as I'm writing them, those first couple of scenes where people are coming together and they're interacting or they're playing off of each other. I think that's what I like most about that is like the idea creation and getting to know the people, the characters themselves.
Describing it as a first date is really perfect. It is that,
Yes.
hey, let's get to know each other.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
That is very exciting because a lot of the times I think as writers, most people forget that we're meeting these people at the same time that they are.
Yes.
And sometimes the people we meet and the people we think we're going to write are not the same ones.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And sometimes it just flows and you're just like, where the heck did this come from? I was not expecting that turn of events, but you kind of got to go with it. And sometimes you ease it back or sometimes you go with the punches and see where it leads you. And that's where the magic happens.
So you learned this business and you progressed with these business. What has been the biggest lessons you have learned?
One of the biggest lessons I've learned is not to compare myself with others. It's a work in progress. But going to these panels with big name authors and up and coming authors, I had to realize that I am on a different journey. We were all in this room because we wanted to be romance authors, but my journey is not their journey. The way I do things, the way the things that I think are aesthetically pleasing when it comes to covers are different from theirs. The way I plan on using a particular idea or trend might be different from theirs. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing is not to compare myself or my journey with anyone else's. Like I said, that's one of the hardest things that we do because we are our own worst critics. But that's something I have to remind myself all the time. Other lessons is that I can do this. One of my biggest lessons was like, I can do this and I can do this on my own. That's like the beauty of being an indie author. And I know there are some levels to being like indie where you have editors and you have proofreaders and you have betas and you have formatters and you have different people who do things for you. And I have made a conscious decision to do a lot of that stuff on my own. And so I taught myself how to do that. And so that's one of the biggest lessons that I can do this. I can teach myself how to do certain things, whether it's technological stuff or the writing writing style or any of those things, and learning different genres and just challenging myself. One of the biggest hurdles for me was actually feeling like I can do this, that I can be successful at it. When I published that first book, it was just like, okay, I finished one, I did the cover for it. People seem to like it because they're buying copies. And that was kind of the biggest thing for me, was like putting it out in the world and having people consume it.
So now that you've been doing this for a few years, what is your definition of success? Because it sounds
You
like it
know,
has changed.
yeah, it comes and goes, like it's up and down. And my answer would probably be different next week or the prior week. It might be different depending on when you ask me. But I think success is getting to do this I'm getting to follow one of my dreams. This is my number one dream, I would say, is getting to write romance novels. And now I'm seeing myself doing that. I think another level of success that I'll be working toward is building my readership and becoming a one-click author for readers at some point in time. Now, I don't want to put a number on that, but I just want to, at some point in time, as soon as a book drops, there are automatically several people who are just like, oh, Kelly Violet's book dropped, there it is. So I think that's what I'm working toward now that I have several books under my belt. A success is, getting back to writing. I dropped the ball this summer just because of various things happening in the world and in my personal life. And after finishing Heal Me Gently and publishing it and finishing a novella that's on Radish, I was kind of burnt out on writing and then burnt out on world and social issues. And so I was just like, let me just take a break. And I went into my reading cave and just read a whole bunch of books. But it generated ideas for me. It didn't stop me from thinking about ideas. So I would write down titles and write down book ideas and hash out, 10 minutes of the plot that I'm thinking of. But I wasn't jumping into a book. That's been a little tough to get around. Just circling back to success. I think doing what I love, whether it's writing a chapter in one day or updating my website because I have news to share with my readers. Again, that would probably change day to day, but I think just being in this business is a success for me because I get to do it. I get to do it on my terms, and I get to tell the stories that I really, really, really want to tell. So
That is an amazing way to describe success. And I like that it changes. Trust me, mine changes on a daily basis and sometimes a lot more exciting than others. Sometimes it's just, hey, I got up to the page. So I love it.
Well, I got out of bed today and I opened up my laptop and I posted something in my Facebook group because sometimes it's hard because I don't have a cute dog. I'm barely going out. There's not a lot of personal things that I can share because they're just 80% personal, 20% marketing type of things is what they tell you. And I wish I had a cute dog that I could just be like, hey, Frodo did something cute today. And then I could just post it up and then that keep me in everyone's mind. But I'm just I rolled out of bed today and I actually got dressed. So success.
About the small victory. Sometimes that's all we need. You talked about the readers group because I have one. And I do have a cat who happens to be judgy and evil, typical cat. And
Yep.
every once in a while, we post pictures of the cat. Now the ongoing joke is everybody posts stuff to me about cats. I'm like, I become the cat lady.
Yep.
So I understand, and success changes every single day. On this topic, what advice would you give to a brand new author?
One advice is to take your time. You do not need to do everything. Again, we are all on our own journeys. Take what you need from the blog posts you read, the conferences you go to, but really just figure out who you want to be in whichever writing world or genre you want to be in. And find your tribe, find those 2 or 3. It doesn't need to be a large group, but the people that you can depend on, not to tell you what you want to hear, but tell you things that you need to hear and that you can do that with them as well. But also just write. Don't stop writing. Get the stories out that you want to. This is a long game. I always tell myself in my other professional sphere and also in this sphere, I'm a lifelong learner. You have to be. You have to continue to learn because the world keeps changing. Amazon keeps changing. The algorithm all of these things keep changing. And so just remember that take time for yourself. Self-care is key, but also just keep writing, keep doing, and then you'll keep improving.
Beautiful advice and so practical. Sometimes we forget It's your race. Nobody else is in this with you.
Exactly. And I think, some people still have this idea that it's a competition. And I'm just like, I know that this romance in particular is $1 billion industry, but there are so many readers who read everything. And I know that there are some readers who only read one type of subgenre. But for the most part, people are willing to try a new author, they're willing to try a new subgenre. And I think it's key that we help each other, that I don't get asked to promote other people's work, but if I see a beautiful cover or I have an author friend who just released something, it only takes me a second to hit the share button. And so I think that's also key. But also realize that some people aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to help. They're not willing to give you any advice because they are of the mindset that this is a competition still. And so you just have to take those instances for what they are and keep it moving.
The good news is not the entire community. I think that's
Yeah.
the best part. Those are a very small group of people. And once you become a discern of who they are, you're able to say, okay, you can stay on this side. It's okay.
Exactly. You can steer clear and just keep moving with, your circle of people who are supportive and helpful, kind.
All about kindness. So, Are you ready to move to our next section?
Sure.
I get the looks. Everybody says yes, and you know that you don't mean it. You're like,
I'm
no,
like,
DC.
what is the next section?
We're going to move to the lightning round.
Okay, let's see.
Easy, fun. Don't think too much about these. Whatever comes to your head, and we're going to have some fun. Only a few of them. Are you ready?
Yes.
Skiing or hiking?
Hiking.
Ooh, some awesome.
I don't know how to ski.
Neither do I. I can't say anything. I was like, sounds exciting until you could hit a tree. I'm still with the whole tree categories.
Yeah. I would prefer to do snowboarding, but skiing with the 2 poles and on, no, that's too much.
Understand. Spicy or sweet?
Spicy.
Ooh, okay.
I love spicy food. I like to cry when I eat is the joke that I tell people sometimes. Sometimes I mean it, sometimes I don't. But yeah, spicy is good.
There's a lot of emotions in everything you do, to include food. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
Favorite board game?
Oh, I have a really good friend and I visit them often and they love playing board games. So I buy them for them, but I don't like playing board games.
Have you told them this?
Yes, they know. And the little kids know because they have little kids. And so I'm kind of like the auntie / godmother. And because they know I bought it or they want to hang out with me and they're like, let's play a board game. And I'm just like, But I would have to say Monopoly if you really need an answer.
You wonder, I think that's every adult's safe one because it's the only one we can
remember. I used
remember.
to play card games a lot when we were younger with my sisters. But the one we used to play as a family, I do remember certain memories of us playing Monopoly. Didn't end well for any of us because we were sore losers and sore winners.
Make a note. Do not invite Miss Kelly to play board games.
I mean, we played trivia at Literary Love Savannah, and I was a sore winner and a sore loser. And I'm not that great at trivia unless it's 80 music and movies. If it's world history or something, I'm just I'm gonna suck at this. But I'm a sore winner and a sore loser at any instance. It's really ridiculous.
That is actually pretty funny. I will make a note of that.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to get a little bit more challenging with this one. Granted,
Okay.
the board game was challenging enough.
I know.
If you could be any animated character, who would you be?
Animated character. Pikachu.
Really?
From Pokemon. Yeah, he's my favorite.
That is too cute. Oh my God.
I mean, he's adorable.
And then you hit them with lightning. Okay.
Exactly. And I really did enjoy that Detective Pikachu movie that they came out with a couple years ago. It was really good.
They did a really good job. I was surprised.
Yeah. And the fact that it was Ryan Reynolds as the voice. I'm just saying.
He definitely has his calling of Pikachu. I can believe that. I was like, you did pretty good. Okay. Here's your last one. Let's see how you do, madam. If your life had a theme song, or if you have a theme song, what would it be?
One of my favorite bands is Need to Breathe, and they have a song called Something Beautiful, and that's one of my favorite songs. So if you haven't listened to it, I would say listen to it. But Something Beautiful. It's about hope. It's about love. It's all of the things. So I really love that song. That's the one I would choose. That wasn't so hard.
No. That was actually easier than the animated character. That took you less time to think about it. I'm impressed. But where can our listeners find you? Where can we find your books? Where are you at?
Yes, so I am what they call a wide author. So you can find my books literally everywhere. I'm on Amazon, iBooks, Barnes& and Noble, Smashwords. Like I mentioned, Radis Fiction is an app where you can read books and they are broken up into episodes. And so all of my books are also on there, and also the new Semi Contemporary book that I just released. That's exclusive on that app. So again, you can find me on all the major ones. And if you have any of those reading applications through your library, like Hoopla and Overdrive and all of those, you can also find my books there as well.
And if they're trying to get a hold of you, what is your social group? Tell us that part too.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. You can follow me there. I'm thinking if you just search out Kelly Violet, you can find me on most places. Most of the time, my handle is at Kelly Violet Author or at Author Kelly Violet. So you can kind of do any combination of those. I'm also on Pinterest if you'd like to see kind of other graphics that I've put together, and also my motivation for characters are on there as well. So I go on Pinterest when I can remember it, and then I just like put in a whole bunch of stuff or find pictures of like aesthetically pleasing things and people. So I'm on there as well. I'm on BookBub as well. And so I think you can just search for Kelly Violet Author and find me there and follow me there. I have a blog on my website, and my website is just www.kellyviolet.com. And I actually just put up, I'm offering signed paperbacks on my website. So if anyone is interested in ordering a paperback directly to me and having it signed, that's something that's available right now.
That is wonderful. I'm all about paperbacks. I know some people are not, but I'm still old school. I like paperback.
Yes. I have a ever-growing collection of paperback books, but my Kindle is also, the collection is ridiculous as well. So I do both. I love both.
Madam, it has been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yeah, so feel free to follow me wherever you like. I hope you take a chance on a new author as often as you like. And I hope to see you at a signing event at some point in time after the pandemic is over.
That would be amazing. We're missing our
Yes.
readers. Absolutely. Madam,
Yes.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, go ahead, give this episode a like, share it with somebody, invite them to join this community. We have amazing authors every week. And thank you so much for joining us another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.